I've handed out the agenda for today. Quite often we try to go through and make sure everybody introduces themselves. My name's John Boutte. I'm co-chair of the Southwest Common Council.
Eleanor Coleman, scribe and representing Youth Build. Come on,
John McMahon, Southwest Neighborhood Service Center.
I am Andrea Miller. I'm with Pathstone Corporation.
Dawn Moto, Susan B. Anthony Neighborhood Association. Alicia Ward, the SUNY attained that at Hayden Street Settlement.
Oh, great.
John Curran, Rapids Cemetery.
Sheet Owens, Youth Build Coordinator.
Okay, great. Thank you. I guess we can go right into the time we've got allotted for the Southwest Common Council Action Plan, and John McMahon has been good enough to try to help organize us for that.
Take one, pass it around. The thing that's going around is from what was discussed at the last several meetings, and their topics for future Common Council meetings. This is a survey that part of the survey we're going to be sending out to establish priorities, not for the neighborhood exactly, but for this group in particular. Things to focus on, things that people feel strongly about, ranking these different things. So we have 7 major topics and what's the most important to the person who's taking the survey. Each one after that is broken down with ideas that have come up at prior meetings, and so people give input on which one of those they feel is important to them. And then there's blank lines for additional things that could be added. So we're going to work on an introduction for it just to make sure people are clear that it's not a comprehensive plan for the neighborhood, or it's not anything to do with Rochester 2034. It's just to kind of stack the agenda for future Common Council meetings. And the thought behind that is that there's several people who used to come to the meetings who haven't because they felt they weren't making the most of their time from it. And I've talked to a lot of people who said, I would go if I had a clear direction and focus on what I was going to concentrate on, and I would probably even give extra time to be on a committee for one of these topics if it was something that the council recognizes as a priority. So the survey is going to be going out in the near future. It's going to be tweaked a little bit. So everybody who has a copy of it, if you would please read it over, add your comments, and get it back to Mr. Boutte, Mr. Lightfoot, or Ms. Coleman here, or me, and we will use that to put out the final version of the survey. So we still have to work on the preamble, if you will, introduction, what it's about. I wanted to put in that a little bit of the history of the Common Council for the people who are not familiar with it at all, because we want to try to reach as many people as we can. And I'm also working on a way to get it out there, because I think I'm fun category of one of the people who sends out so many emails that it's sort of like, oh, another one from him, but we'll figure that out too. So this is homework.
Good. Now, do you think that by next meeting you'll...
Yeah, I think by the next meeting we could probably just do a finalized review of what the input is. If you can get it in before that, it'd be great. If we get it at the next meeting, we could probably go through them. It might be a little quicker that way, though. I mean, it might happen a little too fast. So, in the next 2 meetings by spring, I think we'll have a survey out there that we want to get something to really, the idea is to convince people it's worth 15 minutes of their life to do something for their community, along with the hundreds of surveys that people get now. So that's where we're at with it.
Okay, we've got...
Quick comment, looking at numbers 10 and 11, economic development is repeated twice, information once and second time blank.
Yeah, they're all like that. The information once, and then the second question is where you enter your ideas that are different from the ideas in the first question.
Yeah, we probably had a few people who would like to fill something out like this who aren't here today. Mary D'Alessandro comes to mind. John Lightfoot. Do you have some additional copies?
Yeah, I have hard copies and I have digital.
If you could send me the digital, then I can send that out of my announcements.
Okay.
To let let them know all this information. And so we'll catch the people that aren't here.
Okay, perfect. I'll do
And
that.
maybe we'll make calls and
Yeah.
let them know that this has been sent to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, follow-up phone calls would be great. And if things come, if the Common Council sends out emails under that name, that might be the best way for it to come out, because it's sort of, we're helping to facilitate it, but it's your survey.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, it's coming out under Ellen, right? Everything comes out under mine.
Does it?
I
Yeah.
was thinking about changing that at least to the Southwest Rotary, so at least it's not me, but it's the Rotary sending information out, but that might be confusing.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think it might require a little bit of thought, because
Okay.
I know my name doesn't garner a whole lot of like, oh my God, I got to answer it right now. But maybe our director can send it out or something, or whoever sends it out is going to be on behalf of the Southwest Common Council.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I often wonder when I send something out, do people just automatically toss it in the trash? But
yeah, so you can set that up so your emails go automatically to the trash. You don't even have to send them.
that's right. Okay, let's see. We had another person come in.
Yes, Viola.
You would like to introduce yourself, Viola?
Okay, I'm Viola Curry, and I work across the street, Montgomery Neighborhood Center, Swan, Montgomery Neighborhood Center.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on the survey that anybody wants to? Yes.
My question is, where might job development or training fall under a focus area?
I think they've got it under communications. Encourage number 4, encourage skills training.
That's like computers for seniors. I think it is in here like
For seniors.
yeah. I know it's in here. I know it is.
So, communications doesn't,
No,
it
No.
doesn't say to me, look for technology. I'm
Well,
being selfish because that's what I do.
Sure. No, we have develop a job incubator is one.
where is it? Under what number?
Where?
Children, health, and families, number 9.
The box says develop a job incubator using the software communication.
And number 12, education has develop instructional technology center in Southwest. Develop a relationship with Oasis for training in the Southwest, and also blanks to fill in what additional things.
So I'd encourage, if you wouldn't mind having education and training, the header.
Oh, make it be
and-
education
Okay,
and
yeah.
training.
Yeah.
And then,
So I want you to put that on there, put your suggestions on there,
Right.
and then give it back to John.
and then maybe, economic and job development. So people would think, when people think economic development, sometimes they think just businesses, but if people in the neighborhood want jobs. So how will these businesses through economic development spur job development?
That may be a really good tie. You're going to hear John, who is chairing economic development, talk about one of the projects he's involved in that's also connected to job development.
So if that header could be economic and job development, that would spur some.
Again, write that on.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Let's see, we had one more person come in. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. I have an injured person at the house, broken leg, so I had to do some things before I got here, so pardon my tardiness. My name is Alicia Evans and I am at Healthy Kids at Common Ground Health. And Jen Biderman couldn't make it today. She asked me that I come and share some updates with you all.
Okay, great. We'll cover that a little later on. Okay, I guess if there isn't anything else on the survey, John's on next, I believe, right? Yeah.
To put things in perspective, we had a meeting a couple months ago dealing with developing ideas for the action plan, which you now see in this format here. It gave me a chance to talk at that time about a concept of manufacturing tiny homes here along the Bull's Head brownfield area along the West Main commercial corridor, but using the workforce acquiring job skills. So that's the elevator speech of the idea of economic development. And I was asked by John Lightfoot at his last meeting if I would consider assuming the lead or guiding a Southwest Common Council Economic Development Group. We had the role model of John Boutte's work with education development there, and I think this is probably along a similar vein to have a committee set up, but on the focus of economic development as opposed to education, as opposed to arts, whatever. I did accept that, and I just want to take an opportunity to give people here a sense of where I'm coming from, that many of you are seeing me for the first time and are not aware of my involvement in the Southwest. Things go back to 1998 when I was in the Neighborhood United area there. We were involved with Brown Street development at that time and some work at that time with regard with Bull's Head. Following that was the Susan B. Anthony area, and I had a chance to work with Dawn and her group there, and it gave me a chance to get really immersed in the history of the neighborhood there and studying the different canal systems we've had in this area here, which then expanded further into other studies then. Had a chance to get involved in the vacuum oil brownfield activity starting around the 2009 time frame and continue with that until 2014. So I was active in the vacuum oil process during its formative stage of coming up with a master plan. So after that time frame, it gave me a chance to look at the Rapid Cemetery area. In the 19th Ward, I got involved with the History and Archives group there. We were approached by veterans who were aware that there was a cemetery in South of Rochester that was neglected, overrun, wild, and frankly an embarrassment. So the 19th Ward History and Archives group took on the role of bringing back that cemetery and reclaiming it, both in terms of the actual landscape, but reclaiming the history of that. And we're finding some really exciting things linked with abolition situations there. The cemetery is located on Congress Avenue. Nearby is Brooks Avenue. On Brooks Avenue lived Susan B. Anthony, and a neighbor of hers is a lady named Rhoda DeGarmo. Rhoda DeGarmo was a definite Underground Railroad station person, and there's a recorded incident of a freedom seeker being brought to Rhoda DeGarmo's home and come to Rhoda DeGarmo's home with a picnic basket with Susan B. Anthony. So this is just in our own neighborhood here, so our History and Archives group is trying to reclaim the history. It's given us a chance to work with RIT students to develop a self-guiding cell phone tour. And that's in its development stage here. But that process has given me a chance to study how projects can get developed and different strategies to use. So that I'm learning how to take concepts and get them from idea into reality. I was asked back around 2009 by Eleanor to check into some history. Eleanor was aware that I was doing some research with regard to the vacuum oil area there. And she passed along the name to me of a Southwest Rochester resident that I'd never heard of. So it's a person from this neighborhood here. The person went to school here in Rochester, got vocational training here in Rochester. It was the Second World War. He enlisted. And he's probably the most famous Southwest Rochester resident you've never heard of. And I want to show you his picture. I'm going to pass this around, so if you could pass that side up there and pass the side up here. The fellow's name is Theodore Lancaster. He was a Tuskegee Airman. Went to school here in Rochester. Was able to get trained to fly the P-40 and the P-51 Mustang. Did serve in his his name appears in books about the Tuskegee Airmen. But what amazing thing was that after the Second World War, 1946 time frame, he was able to go to Princeton, and as a U.S. Air Force sponsored individual, he was involved in making the second generation computer. The first one was the ENIAC that helped to produce the atomic bomb theory studies, but he was involved in making from scratch. So he was on the design team, making a computer, second generation of computers today. He was from our neighborhood here. He lived less than a quarter of a mile away from where we are right now during his lifespan. The reason why I'm mentioning him is that as a Tuskegee Airman, they have a guiding principles that they go by. And I mentioned that I've accepted the role of being involved with the Southwest Common Council Economic Development Committee. I want to adopt guiding principles for that committee, and they come from the Tuskegee Airmen. And here they are. The Tuskegee Airmen's guiding principles is number 1, aim high. Believe in your own abilities and work hard. By aiming high, you can achieve more. So what I want the Southwest Common Council to think about is look beyond the immediate and look for something much higher that will have definite effects to the neighborhood. The second guiding principle for the Tuskegee Airmen is to believe in yourself. This is not just ourselves, but rather our own neighborhood associations. We've kind of gone through a period of kind of losing confidence, and this is now a chance to galvanize around our action plan, which is multifaceted, as you see here. But among those facets is economic development. Another principle of the Tuskegee Airmen is to use your brains. This is a chance for us to be able to work smart and also to address being able to develop advanced manufacturing concepts in our neighborhood here, and I'll talk more about that later. Never quit. Be patient, be persistent, but also would add that this is something that really pertains to our neighborhood associations. We got to hang back in there. We have to add a Martin Luther King element. We have to learn to forgive ourselves. We've made mistakes along the way and made some misjudgments and been harsh, but let's take a new spirit. And this is the chance now with new committees to get a fresh start. And let's just look forward and do new things. The other thing about the Tuskegee Airmen is you got to be ready to go. You may have an idea that's far off in the future, but you got to start addressing it now, step by step. So that's part of the process.
Is forgive ourselves part of
That's Martin Luther King. That's
Martin Luther King.
Definitely
Gotcha.
not part of the Tuskegee Airmen principles there, but something that I think we need to add to. And I'll be giving this document that's taken from Tuskegee Airmen. The final thing for the Tuskegee Airmen's guideline is expect to win. We need to expect that we will have the things we want here and then act accordingly. So set a big goal, aim high, use our brains, never quit, be ready to go. So with regard to an emerging Southwest Common Council Economic Committee, any person who wants to get involved in it needs to appreciate this is not battles, it's not skirmishes, it's a campaign. It's going to take a long, long time. It's going to have successes and failures, but failures is another name for succeeding differently, or succeeding a different way, or learning, so that any person who would like to be a part of the economic development group needs to know it's going to be a long, long-term commitment. There's going to be several missions along the way, like the Tuskegee Airmen with 5 missions. This is the campaign. The campaign has a view in the future there, and it'll be us to take the steps along the way to make that happen. So basically that's all I wanted to say there, to say that we are emerging, but I do need guidance from this group here how to roll this up, because I don't want to invent another meeting night. I don't want to draw upon this limited group of people who already are overcommitted there. So I'd like to suggest to the group here to think about how could I embed an economic development component within an existing committee, whether it be this Thursday night group here, or whether it be the last 15 minutes of an education committee meeting. This is what I need to hear from people. So basically what it boils down to is that I had submitted that goal with regards to the manufacturing of tiny homes along the Bulls headquarters using a student workforce. This was submitted to the Rochester Monroe Anti-Poverty Initiative as a suggestion, as a goal, and it was what they call a participatory budgeting process. So ideas were submitted, around about 170 different ideas were submitted. Among them, some came to the top with more people supporting the same thing there. What happened then was the RMAPI group then distilled them to 25 finalists. There used to be groups, for example, like a food cleaner group that at the end of the day, before Wegmans put something into the garbage, they would make sure it gets packed up and taken to like a homeless shelter or something like that. But another group would be, for example, there was support for a 24/7, 3 shifts per day daycare center. That received an award from the Ramapi group. Some local neighborhood garden groups also were awarded. But the one that I was representing is the idea of making a prototype tiny home with a group called REACH. Location is to be determined. There are some issues with regards to city ownership and with regard to zoning issues there, and also an existing property owner there. So it's a site to be determined is the building of a prototype tiny home, single home. We received $50,000 to make that happen, but in accordance with our goal, it's to be manufactured by youth build students. So the goal is that at the work site where the youth build students are, is to have a prototype tiny home built to be taken to a location, ideally to become a framework for a tiny home village. So getting back to the idea of how's this time of economic development, I'm embedding the idea of the manufacture of tiny homes in this neighborhood here where we have the Bull's Head brownfield. So already there is a process of thinking about what's going to be happening there. Back in it was August or September timeframe last year, there was the Bull's Head public meeting. We met in small groups and we submitted ideas. At that time I submitted an early version of the manufactured tiny homes in the neighborhood concept there. So it's been presented within the Bull's Head context there. What I'm talking about also is the idea when we're talking about aiming high, we're talking about what will probably be $1 million project to make it happen. And funds for that will not be likely local. They're more likely to be coming from the Finger Lakes Economic Development Regional Council. So we're looking very high in terms of aiming for the types of things that, for example, advanced manufacturing is one of the things that the Finger Lakes group wants to have happen there. An example of an advanced manufacturing in the Gates area, the northern part of the city. What's been happening thus far is that the types of things that have been funded by the Finger Lakes group have been more food related or beverage related and not truly the anti-poverty initiatives that they're supposed to develop. Within the Finger Lakes group, there's specific statements that they need to follow the RMAPI suggestions for further projects. So that's why I'm really pushing to have the tiny home concept raised up to a New York State funding situation there to develop a state-of-the-art manufacturing site along our West Main corridor. Quite a bit of federal state money is for commercial corridors that have revitalization. There have also been previous things about Main Street revitalization. So the goal is to be able to weave these different things together into a centralized thing. So we're going to really need help in the city to be a partner at the table. The table has one leg, it's the neighborhood, that's the Southwest Economic Group there. Other legs of the table involve universities. We've been involved with RIT to develop and design the tiny home village. So that's the leg that's in place already there. We're concerned about the workforce development, which would tie into groups like Monroe Community College. So the idea is that whatever we're doing for the Southwest Economic Group would address anti-poverty issues, primarily housing and primarily workforce development. And while that's happening, you're having a positive buzz in the neighborhood here to draw more positive attention. So that ends my presentation for now. I welcome your ideas and questions, suggestions.
I have a question. Sure. Where are you planning on developing the tiny home place?
Last fall, we had a chance to work during the August to October timeframe on St. Paul Street. There is a plot of land there that has 3 properties, 2 of which are owned by the city. So during the August through October timeframe, we had well over 130 individuals volunteering to clear that. We had 70 students on a weekend involving the U of R incoming freshmen and the Brockport incoming freshmen. At the site there, we took away 2 of the 40-foot long dumpsters full of heavy trash there. We lined the street several times there. The city was wonderful in terms of mulching some trees for us there. We used the mulch to then eradicate areas where there were a lot of wild growth still. So on the river edge there, tremendous encroachment in terms of bushes and stuff like that, a lot of invasive species there. We literally eradicated the area by pulling the roots out of the things we didn't want there, we did then was to put down cardboard on top of that. So you get the brown dirt, cardboard on top of that, wood chips on top of that, and it's recreating what we did successfully at Rapid Cemetery. That seems to be working well. So the land there is on, it's 1169 St. Paul Street, but there are definite problems with regard to the ownership issues there, and we faced major concerns with the city, understandably, with regard to zoning issues. We started a conversation last August, and it had a very good reception from the city there. We'll be resuming that soon, so that I can't give it a definite location about where things will be. All I can simply say is that funds have been received to the amount of $50,000 to create a prototype tiny home to go someplace.
So in other words, it's not going to be in the southwest area?
The work has been done on St. Paul Street there. As you look in our neighborhood here, you're very, very well aware of the bollards indicating empty vacant lots there. You're also aware of where there have been some former structures that are now removed, and they're like gap tooth there. You see that something's missing there. Our difficulty is that in our neighborhood here, the homes were developed before the automobile, so they're small plots, but they'd be ideal for a tiny home.
How do we know how tiny homes will hold up in the weather here? What is the like structurally? How structurally sound are they?
We are having RIT students develop a Rochester-based home as opposed to the ones that are popular in the Southwest. Our insulation needs are different. Our heating and cooling needs are different there. And we're studying the use of hemp. One of the things that New York State is pushing now as an agricultural product with the Finger Lakes group there is the industrial use of hemp. Hemp is, when you mix it with lime, makes hempcrete. Hempcrete's been around since the 700 AD, and examples of it in Europe are still there today, so it is durable. It has an insulation factor, and that's got to be studied further. So that we're asking them to have the youth build folks take a look at hemp and just kind of experiment. You can take hemp and make a cinder block 1/7 the weight of a typical cinder block. And in our area here, we're not too far away from Buffalo Road. It's an active quarry for limestone at Buffalo Road. Bring in hemp, bring in our own limestone, make the hempcrete. And the beauty of the hempcrete is that it can also be used, rather just the hemp, not the hempcrete. Hemp can be used as an insulation material if you have your standard 2x4 frames for a home. In that 4-inch gap, pour in hemp, works as an insulation material.
You know what the R value is?
That's to be studied further. It may not be quite as good as some of the commercial products there, but it's one of the things are being asking to be studied.
And isn't, what's the state? It's Washington. It's like another really, really cold, Seattle. Aren't they the ones that are also that already do tiny homes?
It's happening in many, many locations. The difficulty is that most of them are in warmer climates.
Right.
Oh, okay.
In our Rochester area and in Syracuse and Buffalo area there, because homes were built in the days either before the automobile, after the automobile, there's really not a standard today to allow for a tiny home, which is why the city is now actively and positively having a conversation with the group called REACH. So the goal is to have a resolution for the city as to what are the zoning codes here, but also you need to learn about very practical things such as the weight of a fire engine. What kind of a roadway do you need in this little village that will support the weight of a fire engine? Do you need to install a new fire line? What about your utilities and stuff like that?
I was going to ask about the energy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
John, Syracuse has tiny homes. And they seem to be very successful. And, I mean,
It's called the Second Wind Village,
Uh-huh.
and some of our folks from REACH have visited there already.
right. I was shocked. I drove by and I stopped, and then I talked to a couple of people that lived there, and it was very practical. I mean, they had figured out everything, except that it wasn't off the beaten track.
Now, another factor about the tiny homes is that it's not meant to be a village that should be another concentration of poverty.
Thank you.
It is from the very beginning, and we just had a news account on Channel 13 2 days ago, and on camera we said that the tiny home village would be made up of a mix of persons, and that would include your downsizing seniors. When I went to the Bull's Head program back in October time frame, people were saying, I face a $15,000 roof repair on my home. I can't afford that. I have to sell my house, but I don't want to leave the neighborhood. That person could sell their home, buy a tiny home, in the quadrant that they live in and still be able to maintain their life while maintaining equity. The goal is rent to own. They have a college student with heavy debt. They've gotten out of college, they're coming to Rochester, they can throw their money away and rent and not get it back, or they could put their money into a tiny home, and at the end of roughly a 7-year period, they own the home but not the land beneath it. They could sell that home, which has value.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
I know zoning, I mean, my zoning flag, bing, like that, as soon as you start talking about it. But also building codes, I mean, all the whole different construction and everything like that. And I don't really know much about those small homes. I should read or watch the video, like how many square foot it is and how big the rooms are and everything, because a building code addresses all those things.
Yes.
And there might need to be a conversation with somebody from New York State to, amend it to include tiny homes or something like that. But that's certainly a process, because it's dealing with the
Again,
state.
it's the idea that this is a campaign.
Uh-huh.
Nothing's going to happen
Right,
overnight
right,
there.
right, right.
I used the analogy of the 1969 moon launch. This is the 50th anniversary of the flight to the moon. Think of you're at mission control, what the Cronkite is saying, we're ready to take off now. Then you hear Chris Kraft, the guy who's the NASA coordinator, saying 3, 2, 1, ignition. That's where we are now. Strictly at that point, the spark has been lit. It's the money for the RMAPI tiny home prototype. We haven't left the ground yet.
If you work, you met with somebody from zoning, you said. Was it
There
Zena?
was a meeting involving as many as 8 different departments last August.
Okay. Do you have like minutes from that? I'm just curious
Yeah,
to see.
I'm going to make a note to myself to send you what we have.
Yeah, because I'm curious, because I know there are people within the administration who are very passionate about, housing for all type of thing. And there's probably quite a few obstacles to it, to be completely honest.
But obstacles are challenges, and we don't want anyone to get deterred by a lack of success. We'll succeed differently, maybe in a different location, maybe under different conditions, but we know the need is there for the housing. We want to keep our city here. Just today, I got an email from the Ransenhoffer's senator desk talking about we're losing so much population in New York State, and housing costs are one of those reasons. Let's create a type of home that a young person just getting out of college, or it could be a senior who wants to hang on to staying in Rochester. Let's make affordable housing that, if done on a manufacturing scale, it can be done better. But part of the New York State Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development is advanced manufacturing. They're looking to fund the kind of manufacturing that's going to be 21st century. An example would be, how do you incorporate 3D printing technology in today's manufacturing setting? Tiny homes can do it. There are actual tiny homes. Think of a laser printer making something, and instead of using ink, using concrete. Already there are tiny homes built of concrete in some environments. We're not talking about that locally, but it's just an example of what they call advanced manufacturing that New York State is looking for. New York State is looking for an application for their agricultural products. Hemp is an agricultural product. So what we're trying to do is the REACH group is putting together what we call the moonshot, basically. Stage 1 is where we are right now. We just got word we got this funding. If it's a rocket on the launch pad, it's 3, 2, 1, ignition, noise, smoke, nothing's happening yet. That's how early it is in this process. The first stage is building the tiny house prototype, a single home, getting it done, produced by students acquiring job skills. The second stage of the rocket is to make a tiny home village. Third stage is let's manufacture those homes to go either as infill homes in this neighborhood here, or 19th Ward, or whatever, or as villages. Uniquely, by studying the West Main Street corridor, one of the assets there that we've lost sight of is that was first and foremost an active rail line. If you were to ask where did Rochester begin in terms of manufacturing, it wasn't Kodak, it was before Kodak. Think of where Canal Street is today, think of where Morse Lumber is today. That was the hub of manufacturing before Kodak. What you had there was Canadian Carriage Works, some shoe manufacturing areas, places there. But what you have at the Morse Lumber Yard is the convergence of 2 canals. Both go on today. The but they played a big role in Rochester and how things developed. When you go to Morse Lumber, there's a depression in the parking lot near the gas station there. That depression was formerly the Genesee Valley Canal. The name Canal Street is because the Erie Canal joined the north-south Genesee Valley Canal in Dawn's backyard, basically. So in our neighborhood here, things developed there along that corridor. But what were there also was a lot of warehouses and also the first passenger terminal for the trains. Before you had Nick Tahoe's in the 1880 time frame, the 1870 time frame, roughly where Silver Street is in that area is where you had your passenger station for the first railroad. Rochester's first railroad came in 1837, and it came in along the West Main Street corridor. We still have today an active rail line that serves Morse Lumber. As it passes towards the Bull's Head area, it's heading towards the 8th Street, and it's swinging out towards Buffalo Road, swinging out towards Brooks Avenue. So the rail line that is serving Morse Lumber is serving the 121 Lincoln Avenue, where the youth build area is there. It continues broad Brooks Avenue to the Wegmans area there, and it keeps on going to where you get your rock salt from Heffard, New York. So we've got some assets here that could be really used to develop a world-class advanced manufacturing site to build tiny homes, hiring a workforce that needs to work there, and then you get them to a pipeline where they can work in other construction type things, other areas that can apply electrical, carpentry type skills there. So that's the moonshot, aiming high.
Okay, great.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you very much, John. Now, you were saying
I loved it.
yesterday that or when I last talked to you, that you were wondering whether to have these meetings as part of this, or does anybody have any thoughts as to how they? I mean, I know the Education Committee is usually pretty much bumping up to the end of the hour and a half, but we can.
What I'm suggesting as a starter is 15 minutes at some point during the meeting for economic development.
Mm-hmm.
If it then appears that there's a need to go longer, that's the point to make a decision to meet at a different time in a small group fashion.
Okay, so we'll plan on putting 15 minutes at the end of this meeting right now so that people can all see what's happening, and then we'll go from there depending on what's needed.
Are you saying then that there's a receptivity that at our next Southwest Common Council meeting that there would be a segment devoted to economic development?
Yeah, I think, does anybody have any problems with
The
that?
hope would be that survey would provide you with some committee
Yeah.
members.
Yes.
I'd like to bring a list of what we plan for our neighborhood. So if
Yes.
every neighborhood could give you a list and share.
I would like very much to be invited to your meetings. I'd like to go back again to talk to Dawn's group. I met them back in September. I got some really good feedback. Hearing news that I may not have been happy to hear at that time was helpful. I learned where things needed to be. I've learned from my mistakes. When I did the initial Bull's Head charrette way back in roughly 2008 time frame, I didn't listen carefully enough. So I learned from that. I was involved with the vacuum oil brownfield area and learned that perhaps my input was no longer needed there. But I've stayed in the game, and it's given me a chance to be able to apply what I've learned now on a broader Southwest scale.
Great.
So I know I'm Alicia, and I know I've only come to a few prior Southwest Common Council meetings, but your idea of the last 15 minutes sounds like a good one. So what if the last 15 minutes of every meeting was a breakout session, so that each committee could break out and meet at each meeting, and then you wouldn't have all these extra meetings?
Well, except we have to run that by the library. We have trouble staying within our time limit as it is, and we're supposed to be 6 to 7:30, and it might fit in with economic development. But as far as interest, is we talked earlier about the need for NSC to be represented here, like it used to be. We're really grateful to have you here. And seeing about making that more active, having more representatives here from the different offices that used to be here, so that we're hearing what's going on the city side, because it's very disjointed to have this meeting and not have you guys here, because you got the city information coming here, and that's been a real gap and I think caused part of the decline of people attending here. So I'm really glad to hear that the NSC is going to be, well, you have been anyway, helping us with the strategic plan.
Well, I think as the goals are defined too, you'll know which players to call upon. Is it somebody from housing development that really should be here for the tiny house issues and different. But once that becomes more clearly defined, I think that it'll be easier to bring more people on board, city people and other
Beautiful.
Okay. Great. Let's see, we've had a couple of people come in. Why don't we start at the end there? Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Neighborhood United. This is only time nobody was. But you know what? I'm going to say whoever called my phone and left that message, thank you. I tell you, I did all I could to make it here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really love having you here.
And when I said, I wanted to say, what have you been doing since you've been gone? On the way here, the minister called and said, listen, I need you to get to the hospital because there's an elderly lady, I think that she might pass tonight, and looking for the brothers to go in. So with that being said, that is some of my work I've been doing, still, working, from cradle to grave, it's a lot of work. And I do want to say that I can't always be here, but I am so committed because I know our communities need so much help and so much love, and they need people who have been in it and in the struggle and the fight, trying to make it better, trying to make people to see why we are here, why we're doing what we're doing. I tell you, it's been a long journey, but I'm glad that we got people like yourselves and myself, doing what we're doing, trying to make it better. It's a big job.
Is there any chance you could identify someone in your community, even a young person who might connect with another young person to represent you, so he or she could at least bring you back information when you can't make it? Or just think about that.
Okay, I can think about it. Well, I will say this. I've noticed that I'm very respected in the community by the young and the older people. They do notice that I'm very busy, but I don't know what their availability are, But I will look out amongst the community and I will ask to see who would like to.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think that
sort of be your partner.
Yeah. That's the case, I think, for everybody here, is trying to bring some young blood into the organization, because we've been fired up and doing stuff for many years, but
So that's all I was going to say.
Great.
Thank you for just waiting on me.
Just glad
thank you.
Glad you could make it. And James, you came in.
I'm James Dempsey. I'm the administrator for the Southwest Neighborhood Service Center. Just coming tonight just to get an update as to what's going on. I'm glad I did come.
Welcome. Glad you're here. Okay. Projects. Various committee. The events committee. Do we have anything to report on that? Mary's
D'Alessandro
not
is
here.
our events person. And what we did learn at the Rotary today is that they're going to take on again, I don't know how many of you went to a Taste of the Islands. It was at Brew Coffee, and they had a whole bunch of restaurants from the Southwest area come in, and people paid $5, and they actually sold out of tickets. People tried to buy tickets afterwards, but it was crowded. So what we're thinking about doing, we want to do it again because it was very successful, and the businesses that came could take some of the of what was collected. But this time we're thinking about spreading it out to be at Brew and the Walk. So that way there's a lot more space for different restaurants to be in there. But the Rotary really would like to explore ways to build, to make the businesses more successful. And the street liaisons do a really good job of putting information out there about like where are all the restaurants, where are all the places you can eat. So like, let's take that and then build on it even more. So that will hopefully be the end of March or the beginning of April. You'll be hearing more about
I'm hoping
that.
they're going to get that to Leah with the city, because she's right now looking for with comfort food, but I think some would fall into that. The city is doing their Twitter and their Facebook, and they're promoting things like that, restaurants like that. So probably an excellent free advertisement.
Who is this, Leah?
Leah. You know.
You'll give me the dates, the details.
Leah. I always want to say Leah Remini. That's funny.
Okay, and the Society Restaurant, I don't know that I've heard anything new on that. That's the one that's going in under the student tower building there at Brooks Landing. They're still working out the details for that.
Oh, and so events probably also Beats at Brooks should be under there. On Thursdays from 4, they're going to change the time, make it a little bit earlier. I think it didn't start till 7 before. But on Thursdays, probably around 5:30, they're going to do Beats at Brooks. Again, it'll be every other Thursday during the summer. And so if you know particularly of local artists, performers, any of that, Mary D'Alessandro's collecting that information, and we want to schedule those again. The Southwest Rotary is going to take it on, but there's going to be a lot of volunteers needed, because the Staybridge is going to let us, of course, use the space, and they'll provide the chairs, I think, but we have to do anything to do with cooking, we'll have to do. So we have a hot dog cart, but we're going to need help in man and womaning those.
And Mr. Demps has asked for some money to help out with that too, a little bit.
Awesome.
Oh, great.
Awesome.
No promises.
The ARC project, did somebody mention something at the meeting today about that?
No.
Or nothing new on that issue of arts in the Southwest there?
Well, there probably will be some things happening next year, and certainly it's something we'll bring when we have more information on it.
Mm-hmm.
We've asked for money, but asking and getting is a stretch sometimes, so we don't want to get too deep into it without knowing what we're dealing with. We have other people who, the lady from the U of R who wants to help out. We have a few things percolating, but so maybe next time.
Okay. The Education Committee, I guess that would be me. It's been a zoo for the last several months here between the distinguished educator and his report making waves all over the place, and the state who pushed that very much to make sure that the district kind of changed its way of operating to have more success in the schools. We've attended many meetings for those things, and then more recently here we've had 4 schools in the Southwest that are in receivership, and so the receivership basically means that the school is now reporting directly to the superintendent, and the superintendent's got more leeway into what they dictate the school will have to do. It gives them a little more flexibility as far as unions go and so forth. And it can be a good thing. We had 44 in receivership a couple of 3 years ago, and they came out of it in good shape, and 3 has come out of receivership. But right now we have 10, which is in swing space up at Marshall right now. We've got School 16, which we just got renovated, but after having been torn out of the neighborhood for 6 years and just coming back, they've gone through a lot of upheavals, and it didn't do their performance any good. They also had 7 and 8 added to it, and then they've shed it this year, so we'll see how things go. I think they'll come out of the receivership pretty well. We've got School 19, and getting to know the principal there. She seems real good. And then we've got the Wilson Foundation Academy, which is the old Madison up at 200 Genesee Street. The idea was when they set that up that they have an IB program and can feed the IB program over at Wilson Magnet High School further down the street. So I'm just getting involved with them. Between the Southwest Common Council Education Committee and the 19th Ward Schools Committee, we've been trying to figure out who's going to cover what school when. And it's an opportunity to, have an influence on what's going on in these schools. One of the things that we'd very much like to push for is to try to get more interaction between teachers in the neighborhood, because for better or for worse, we've got a teaching staff which is predominantly suburbanite. They grew up in the burbs, went to school in the burbs, went to college with other kids who went to school in the burbs, and then they come and teach in the city, and there's a little bit of a culture shock or disconnect there. Wonderful people, they love the kids, but you have to be able to really relate to everything going on in the school. The new code of conduct that was adopted a year or two ago seems to be doing a good job of trying to get more restorative justice and reduce suspensions, which sometimes people just fell back on it. They could get out of school for a while. That doesn't help the child any. So there are good things going on, but we really need to try to get them more involved with the community. For instance, we thought, we'll try to get them to come to some of the candlelight dinners that the 19th Ward puts on. This would be a great way of getting them into the homes of some people. Didn't get any takers. We had the 19th Ward convention at the school, and we thought we'd hopefully get quite a few teachers to come out for that, but didn't get too many. We did have a kind of a happy hour across the street. I guess that wasn't too far from the school, and they came. We had about 20 people come to that. But we need to do a lot more work at making sure that the teachers have all the sensitivity training they need for the population they're working with. The other big thing that we're doing, and hopefully if you haven't yet, there's a link here for local busing that was also in the, it's on the website that you got a notice from, and then the email I sent. Please do log in to that Education Committee busing issue website and sign it. It's what we're trying to do is make sure that there is plenty of local busing so that parents can feel safe putting their child on a bus without having to pick a school 1.5 miles away, which is what the situation is right now. And we end up, I think, having a lot more kids not going to their neighborhood school because of that than if they had really the freedom to pick whatever school they want, including the one 2 blocks down the street. And that's kind kind of in a nutshell what we're doing, trying to get people involved with the committee. If anybody is interested in getting involved in that or knows somebody who would be.
What time are the meetings?
The meetings are at 6:30 on the 4th Wednesday of the month at the Arnett Library.
Healthy Kids, in our portfolio, we have schools 3, 16, 29, 10, and 19. And we are looking to be a little bit more intentional with our presence on the education team in hopes of being able to get additional support with the strategies that we have in our advocacy that we're already doing in those schools, and hoping that with the community support and the Southwest Common Council support, we may be able to have a greater impact.
That'd be great. Yeah.
And so you know that they're setting up CETs,
Yeah,
community engagement teams?
So with School 16, now are they actually a community school now? I know that they're going into receivership. But
They're going into
are they going to be a
receivership.
community school as well?
It's not about them being community schools. The community empowerment team? No.
Community engagement team, yes.
Yeah.
I have other schools throughout the city of Rochester, about 6 of them that
'Cause I know-
are like school number 3 has a community engagement team. and we
19
attend.
just started one
Okay.
also, November 6th, I think. Oh, November. Jesus. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
March 6th, they're having another meeting. So, and I know they'd love to see someone from.
So my coworker
Other
Eric,
people.
he partners with School 19 quite a bit, and
Great.
Jen does too. So we have the school's portfolio split between 2 different funding sources. So we have some that are on our GRHF, and then some that are on the DOH. And but we are definitely looking to be a little bit more, have a bit more impact. And Eric did mention attending school number 19.
Great.
Yeah,
So-
and 16 is meeting on the 4th and on the 11th for their CET teams.
Okay.
So if you've got somebody that can come
The
to
4th
that,
and the 11th
4th and the 11th, they have some
of like the 4th.
of March.
Okay, so they changed it from February.
Yeah, well, they
'Cause I know
had
that
they had a
it was
meeting in
inclement
February.
weather, and then it got changed. What are the dates for that again? though?
For school 16, it's March 4th and 11th,
Okay.
and the school 10 is on the 6th, and
10 or
they're-
19?
19.
19 is
Pardon
on the
me.
6th.
Okay.
Yeah, 19 is on the 6th. I haven't heard anything back from 10. John Lang's been attending that. And we're also still waiting to find out what Wilson Foundation is going to do as to what dates. We're trying to get them to pick dates that aren't going to conflict with one another, because the first set of meetings we had 3 schools holding meetings the same night. It's kind of hard to go to 3 places at once, you know. But, one thing that I'm not sure if you're involved with, Susan Morehouse had the program working with School 29, where they would have the kids, have teachers bring kids to the library and the park next door to it. I don't know. I know they were involved with 2 or 3 other groups in the neighborhood or in the city.
Maybe I'm not particularly familiar with that.
Okay.
My work is primarily around the inclusion work being
Mm-hmm.
done there. So I sit at the inclusion table there, and
Okay.
we are pushing forward to really get a lot of professional development for comprehensive school physical activity programming, and ensuring that like staff, especially auxiliary staff like paraprofessionals, teaching assistants, and like maybe AmeriCorps staff and others are having the opportunity to get professional development, where some teachers, you know, they have learned it, but other people coming from different fields and backgrounds might not have the information, and just really making sure that every single child has an opportunity to have quality recess, since recess is mandated in the Rochester City School District for every day, a minimum of 20 minutes.
Sure.
So 29 and other schools have a variety of children with different abilities, and we're Healthy Kids is working hard to ensure that all the schools that we work with have the opportunities to provide quality physical activity throughout the day for all children.
Because as it turns out this year, 29, because of some of the renovations going on, they weren't able to fit this program, which usually takes place in the spring, of bringing the kids down one class at a time to the library and to the park next door there for activities. They're going to try to set that up with School 16, so hopefully that'll be another way to get teachers from 16 to maybe walk through the neighborhood and find that
there were
it's
some
really
challenges with the facilities mod as far as some of our work is concerned. We were trying to get some gardens that were wheelchair accessible and raised so that wheelchairs can roll under them and they can have a little bit more impact, but because they're going to be doing so much modernization, we had to put that on hold. So hopefully we can bring that garden work back maybe in a couple of years after it's completed.
Okay, good. I think that covers anything else on education. that comes to mind?
Can I just share?
Okay.
Just pass around my flyers inside. Just kind of stumbled here and I have them with me. And then ask if I can meet with the education committee at a later date.
Sure.
So I
Yeah.
manage a computer lab called Attain, and we have a new location, and we're located adjacent to number 9 school. And we're in the northeast. But Attain is it's at Baden Street Settlement, but we are for the entire Monroe County area. So it's not just, it's housed at Baden Street, but it's not solely for Baden Street.
Would you consider relocating to the Southwest?
We could use
Just
this.
think about it.
No.
Just like food for, don't say no.
No,
Don't say
I'm
no,
sure
just think about it.
I'm sure
We're trying
the
to,
Attain Lab would not be relocating anymore. We just relocated from 13 Vienna Street building to
now you're getting good at it though.
Maybe it's kind Yes, I used to work.
Alicia knows. So,
It is a great facility, though.
so we now are in a more modern building. And we have an elevator because we're located now in the Clinton Baden R Center. We have an elevator. That's my plug.
All righty. And shall we go? Well, do you have anything else on the your part of the city?
Just recommitting myself to focus. That's all I'm doing. Just recommitting myself to focus and try to. Let me just say this. It's a lot of people jobs based on their past record, and it's a lot of just say 49-year-olds. It sounds sad, but 49-year-olds who still need help obtaining a Social Security card, obtaining New York State identification, and they're embarrassed, and they need somebody who can break the barrier to say, all of us need some help, So, with that being said, I'm just trying to recommit myself to really look at the needs of the community.
Yeah, great. Programs that the library has or Oasis are things that maybe would be helpful for some of those individuals.
That's in your survey too.
Judicial Processing Commission, that's JPC's, one of their main focuses.
But I was working with GCP. I was working with GCP as a counselor. And my impression is that you have to be incarcerated, and they help you as you come out of incarceration. Not if you have been incarcerated, let's say, 15 years ago, and you've stayed out of trouble, and you're like out here in limbo land. You know, so
I think they do. I think they will.
Okay.
I have no doubt. I believe that JTC will help. Yeah, they'll
Also,
help.
St. Joseph Center on South Avenue. They've been helping the members of Peace Village, the homeless, get their IDs. So I think you can go in there as well. If you're lost, they can at least direct you, but they're very good with everything.
That's good.
As well as the House of Mercy. They help people get their IDs as well all the
Yeah,
time.
because the caseworkers are there. Yeah, they know how to do it.
Okay, and what do we have with the block club there, Elizabeth?
Not much, not yet. Next month we'll have a lot of more to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Spring comes, I mean, it's sort of, everybody stays in their house right now. It was sad though what happened with Mr. Bradford though.
Yeah,
And that should have never, I mean, whatever, it should have never happened.
yeah. And Viola,
Miss Viola Curry.
what can you tell us about what's going on in Swan and your neighborhood?
I think once when we were here, we were talking about, helping Montgomery Center get back up to speed, and last week they just finished putting up new ceilings and new light.
Nice.
So we have now a roof
New roof.
Great.
and new ceiling and new light.
Did you say no lights?
New.
New.
lights.
Okay.
I have an accent, it ain't that bad. And so we're going, we're hoping that the thing is that, I don't know whether most of you all know what I do, but I work with the senior citizens over at the Montgomery Center. And my program is to get people to come and have a hot lunch. So it's called the Nutrition Program. And the food comes in from the ABVI, and they have a commercial kitchen. So the food comes every day. And my thing right now is it isn't where they're going to give you steaks every day or fried chicken or whatever, but it's a nutritious meal. And it's only $3.50 if you can afford it. My thing now is I'm trying very hard to get people to come to make sure that they eat. And you all could really help by telling people to come over. And if they need a ride, if you're in the 148, 1468, 14611, and 19, you sign up. I can have Medical Motor come and pick them up and bring them to the center and take them back home. So we're looking for people to come and eat.
Do you have a flyer or anything?
I have.
That we can put inside the service center or get it out this pathway?
Yeah.
And you can send that to me?
Yeah.
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 Because then I can send it out to like 400 people.
What time are your lunches?
Oh, lunch is from, we're open at 10, from 10 to 4 until you go home. But we eat at 12 o'clock. Yeah. So that's what's going on with Viola.
Very good, Viola. Thank you.
Ms. Curry, I have a question. So is the medical motor transport something new?
No.
No, they have been doing it for years. I have you.
Well, come on.
John, I have a question. Is there an update on the arming of the security guards for this side?
No,
So
they've
what's the
sent out,
latest?
the latest is they're still sending out a survey to get input. It's been through I just sent it out on the last set of notices, the second time. They're sending out a survey asking for input from the community. I know at the last 19th Ward meeting, they said they were standing by their original letter, saying no,
No.
we don't support it.
Is the Southwest Common Council going to take a stand on it?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, we haven't decided on it. We had them come in and give the presentation, but is that something that a lot of people here think we should do, or depends on the, the sentiment of the group?
I don't agree with that.
I'm not in favor of arming anybody, because the more armed you have, the more potential there is for somebody to get shot and killed. So, but.
Yeah, they were.
Arm who for what?
The officers at the U of R have been armed at the hospital, so that when people come in, they
Not
can.
all of them, not all of the security people are armed.
Yeah, some
Some of them, they're qualifying them as peace officers.
Oh, peace officers,
Yeah. They have to go through a police training, a pretty strenuous training to become peace officers. Matter of fact, I was at the training academy a couple of weeks ago during the evening, and a pretty large group of them were there training with Rochester Police Department.
Yeah, the presentation they gave at the last meeting is, I videoed that, and it's online, and it was, I think the link to it was in the minutes that in fact, the Fisher presentation here is what
I'll switch my head wrap here from being here from Common Ground Health to being a 19th Ward resident, and even though I don't attend the meetings, I am a paid member. I do not agree with that.
Do not agree with arming the officers.
Arming officers to be patrolling throughout the 19th Ward. I do not agree
No,
with that.
they're not throughout the 19th Ward. They would be on properties that have students from the U of R, like the Powers.
And there's a lot of those properties in the 19th Ward.
And
Where
Flex.
regular folks that are residents are frequenting and often can be profiled and whatnot. I as a resident, I personally do not agree with that. So, and then that's just me.
I'm a resident of the 19th Ward.
I agree with you on that.
And I believe if they take self-defense training, martial arts, or anything other than armed guns, they're professionals, and they should learn how to de-escalate a situation versus allowing that situation to escalate. And if it does escalate, then they should call RPD. And that situation won't be on their reputation. That's what RPD is for. So that is my soapbox opinion.
What they'll say to that, or what they said to that last time they were here, was that RPD was too slow.
Well, there's going to be they're reorganizing.
However, as a
they're
taxpayer,
reorganizing now so that there will be substations again. So the response time should increase.
As a
What's that
taxpayer.
say for the regular citizens? I mean, like if we need help, like.
I think we
Southwest
I think is pretty good though, because we don't have a lot of crime compared to
Yeah,
some of the
we're
other
pretty good.
ones. So
John, why don't
Because
we
it
just take
depends
a
on
hand vote, just to see who's in favor and who isn't?
I don't do that.
You, pardon?
I'm still neutral on that.
Yeah, sure.
Well, you
How many people would be in favor of arming the officers? How many people oppose it?
2 hands. Let's see if there's even some double hands down here.
Well, I guess that's a pretty
No, it's
definitive.
not about the conversation.
No, I know.
Eleanor's tired of
Before
seeing
you
me
guys
today.
leave,
Oh, hey, we
Anytime.
always love seeing you, John.
Right.
Thank you very much, James.
Thanks for coming, James.
It gets hot.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, Play Rocks, save the date, July 13th, Play Rocks Your Neighborhood. Yes, Healthy Kids, we're back, and every summer this is a great opportunity for that. And then the Play Rocks Your Neighborhood. So it's an intergenerational time for play, reclaiming the neighborhood, letting children and families and elders all come out and enjoy themselves. As a coordinated play day. So if you're interested in that, Jen Vitamin spearheads that. It's July 13th.
Take care. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. July 13th, it's a Saturday, and there will
Okay.
be like a correspondence coming out.
Okay.
And then also Healthy Kids has revamped the advocacy agenda, and Jen Bideman would like to be on the calendar for March or for April, if you can schedule that time with her and let her know.
Okay.
I'm sorry, revamp the advocacy?
Oh, so Healthy Kids has went through advocacy agenda renewal. So Jen would like to come and share the new advocacy and present at the meeting and get on the schedule or on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, and that's it.
For next week?
Yeah, for next
Okay.
month.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anything that hasn't been covered already?
Not really. I mean, yeah, I got nothing really to say. Kind of quiet.
So,
Reining it all in.
Rashid is the alumni coordinator for Youth Build. He graduated in the first cohort. And he's becoming active. He's attending the Rotary. He's becoming active and learning about all the different things that are going on here. And so I'm hoping it's like going to spark some youth contribution, youth activity here.
You'll be seeing more of us.
Good.
Thank you.
And the library.
We're very excited that we got a $500 grant from the Cornhill Neighbors Association. We're going to renovate our raised garden beds to make them elevated garden beds. So hopefully we can get some intergenerational programming.
How much was
with
that?
The seniors, $500.
$500.
Yes. And the other thing is on March 23rd, Saturday, March 23rd, with Alicia, we're going to have the Black Women's Book Festival again from 10:30 to 1:30 here at the library. And please come.
Okay.
And these will be shared electronically, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great.
So I do want to add, that's my email address there, but I set up a Gmail address to get communications from authors so that they wouldn't be mixed up with my email. So please share, if there are any authors, poets that you know, please share Black Women's Book Fair at gmail.com, no apostrophe. So Black Women's Book Fair at gmail.com for them to correspond with me rather than the award_1 civic at Yahoo, because it's become a bigger event. I've had more communications and all that email was getting.
So it's definitely Black Women's Book Fair at gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
Okay.
Great.
No apostrophe S, just the S.
All righty. And while we've got the camera aimed there, anything that Dawn has?
We've been a little busy, actually, even though we did take a couple months off from neighborhood meetings from December and January, but we were back in February. 1872 Cafe has a new owner over January. It's still 1872 Cafe, and we're still going to have pizza and wings, but they want to expand upon the menu. Have boneless wing salads back again. They understand the menu was a little lacking for everybody to frequent it more often than they needed to. So we're happy to see them do that.
Who bought it?
Gary Persona. He's a Chilai Ave resident. So yeah, it's local, and he's excited to, and he's there every day. Is really what it needed. Somebody that just started off, and it's good. Always the next generation kind of adds to it, and it's always a good thing. Something doesn't succeed, sometimes it works out. Frederick Douglass Resource Center is like that too. We have a new owner of that building.
Where?
Who's the new owner?
Matt Druin purchased the building. He's a developer. The Frederick Douglass Resource Center.
Is he a developer?
Yeah,
incubator.
Yeah, and he already has a manufacturing component. He's going to make it a mixed-use commercial building, and there's already a small manufacturer in there. And they don't build like machine manufacturing; they just build the parts that they assemble there. So that's one quadrant of the building. The auditorium is still there to use. Calvin Eaton used the auditorium for a conference. And he wants to do another kind of incubator space for small businesses where maybe you need a meeting room or you need an office and shared fax and shared computer desk space there. So he's working on that. So
Is it going to stay named the same for the whole legacy piece?
I don't know. Right now we have signs in front of it saying the Frederick Douglass Resource Center, visit here, and it's not a resource center for Frederick Douglass anymore.
Right.
So those are
Well, not the
coming
resource, but just
I think he's keeping the name and the use of the building is similar. So
Tell them to keep the colors.
It's nice though. We see the new people working there walk the neighborhoods at lunch. They're happy to have the jobs. They're $15 an hour, good paying jobs.
$15 an hour.
Local. Monday through Friday work, you know, no weekends, no holidays. It's not too bad.
Holidays.
Yeah,
Are they hiring?
Yeah, they're hiring. Stop in there, 39 King Street, and it's Farm Med, and they put together pharmacy boxes for seniors that all your meds are in there. You just open the door.
King Street.
Get your pills out.
Who should we contact to use the auditorium they've got there?
Actually, he's coming to our next neighborhood meeting, but I'll email you his contact information.
Okay, if you could, because I know the AQE Citizens Action Education Committee was wondering just recently where they could meet that has a little more room than the place we usually have.
They used a PowerPoint presentation,
Yeah.
you know, so he's done some
That's a
work.
beautiful auditorium.
It
there.
is, so it was good. He reached out to us before he even bought the building to make sure he knew what the neighborhood still wanted to see in the building, which was great. And so it still happens. And then another good thing is East House is starting on the renovation of the BOA building on Canal Street. So that's going to be over 100 apartments, affordable units, and then East House will have like 39 apartments for their program. First floor will be commercial space, mixed commercial too, like they'll have some community space. But I'm trying to get Food Link to do a small incubator store of healthy foods.
What's the success on that?
Well, they're just starting their work, so we've got about 2 years worth of construction. They've been 2 years into this project, and they haven't even touched a shovel. You know what I mean? It takes that long to get the bank financing, the brownfield stuff cleared with the state, and they've gotten all their approvals from the state.
Okay.
So and they've gotten their bank financing. So we're I work with Mitch Gruber at Food Link. He's one of our neighbors too. So
he is.
And we just had a new business open up at 90 Canal Street, Karma Sauce, where they're making hot sauce. And if you ever go to Parkley Pharmacy, or there's some places that sell it now and they want to get it more local, it's a small business. They have 4 people.
Where's this?
On Canal Street, where the Small World Food was in that building making their bread, and now they've moved to Exchange Street. And so this was all set up for some other food type of entrepreneur to come in. And so I went in there the other day. It smells like peppers cooking. They were making bottling sauce. And they won a sauce contest in New York City, in the Bronx. There's a place you can buy hot sauce, only hot sauce. And they've won every year they do a contest. They've won it once.
What's their name?
Karma Sauce.
Are they connected with 1872 at all?
With a
Not
K?
yet, but I'm sending her up there, yeah.
K like karma?
Yes,
Okay.
so
K
you
like
see
karma.
it.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I'm like, it's good karma. You hear
It's got
it.
good
She's
karma.
Like, it's good karma.
It's good karma.
We like hot sauce. Susan B. Anthony celebrated her 199th birthday this month. Next year it's her 200th birthday. So there's a huge multi-platform planning going on with all the different entities around Monroe County, Finger Lakes, Seneca Falls. So New York State will be really big into Susan B. 200 in 2020. It's her 200th birthday. It's the 100th anniversary of suffrage in 2020, and it's 75 years of the Susan B. Anthony House being preserved as well as a historic museum. So a lot to celebrate. So. And Visit Rochester is going to do a multi-platform calendar for everybody. So if you're doing women's events around Susan B. Anthony in 2020 and want to advertise it on Visit Rochester's calendar, you can contact Visit Rochester for anything women orientated. I would say our neighborhood is open. If you have a group that wants to come use that auditorium at the Resource Center, we can connect you to those resources and try to get some good things going.
Are they charging?
No. Well, you know, I'm not 100%, but I'm going to ask them that at my meeting
Or
next
how
week.
much they might be charging.
Exactly.
Because I'm a member of Toastmasters, and we have contests. So it would be a great place for a Toastmasters contest, but we generally go to spaces where there is not a charge or a limited charge. So.
And we could probably subsidize. Our neighborhood's very supportive of women's issues and
women's
local
circles.
causes, and we have good women's circles around us. So
Well, Toastmasters not a women. That's a whole different.
you've come to our festivals though in the past.
Yes,
in the park,
absolutely. Yes. So,
Yeah,
so
well,
we have a
change
number of
contact.
Toastmasters club meetings that meet. There's a Toastmasters club that meets over in the senior housing. Lyceum Toastmasters meets in the same.
Very good.
I'll get her email from the list.
Yes.
Yes. No, I will send you, I'm gonna send out the entire attendance sheet. That's got everybody's name.
Anybody's heard about the city's newest proposal? Maybe I'm glad those guys left.
What newest proposal?
Yes, that thing.
What proposal?
I got an email like a week ago.
Oh.
And
There you
the
go.
neighborhood,
I
there's a
definitely
group
know.
that's been meeting at City Hall. There used to be an NBN Neighborhoods Building Neighborhoods when Mayor Johnson started a lot of groups, and they still have it. They meet at City Hall. It kind of disbanded for a few years, but got back together a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And so they've been working with City Hall, but somehow City Hall's got these neighborhood association guidelines that group totally opposes. And it would really wipe out about 6 neighborhoods in the Southwest where they wouldn't be eligible to be a recognized neighborhood group from the city of Rochester.
Yeah.
It's really disturbing. There are requirements for some of our neighborhood groups that they wouldn't be able to meet them. Advocacy, which we all do, work with City Hall, council members, and other organizations, building community, host events, gatherings, information sessions. We all do that. We do meetings. It's not all bad. Direct services, though. We must have a community office, a newsletter, and handle resident complaints, which I think we are paying our tax dollars for those guys to do that. Strongly disagree with that. How many of us can afford to own an office space? And then if you get down further, we would have to have 1% of our membership of the community, 1% of the community that lives in your neighborhood would have to be inclusive in your membership to be recognized. So if you have thousands of people in your neighborhood, you're going to have hundreds of people at your monthly. Where are you going to have that monthly meeting?
How much are you supposed to have?
1% of your demographic.
Of your demographic?
Of whatever your
And let me just
area is.
Also
Back
supposed to
on
have a
what you said.
501c3.
Right.
Oh, you
Well,
have
that's,
to be-
that's something else, but for the Cottage Street Block Club, because we have like 72 homes, and so we would need like 7 people to be part of our Cottage Street Block Club. And we have that many active members.
Back to the Southwest Common Council, whatever happens to the Southwest Quad, because it's not really very active. It's supposed to be driven by neighbors, and at this point there's only one person really that oversees it, and again, the same people that come here go there. So what they're saying is bring the NSC back here, is bring representation back here. Our strategic plan will drive for John who from the city to have here, so we're not wasting our time. But it makes more sense to have this meeting, which is over 20 years old, to be strong and continue to be representative of the Southwest Quadrant.
But also with the quad meetings, so the people that get paid come to the meetings. But people that are volunteers that, a lot of people work and cannot come at that hour. Now, I would like to share with you something that, and this is all from Lynette Robinson, after she and I talked about what Dawn had just read, and she says, as a former co-chair for the Southwest Common Council and currently serving as VP for the Changing of the Scenes Neighborhood Association, I can see where this proposal brings clarity and consistency to the citywide neighborhood association model. However, I am concerned that this proposal is recognizing the neighborhood association as a business model and not as a time-consuming, stressful, vision-filled, conflict-resolving, in many instances not conflict-resolving, volunteer entity. I am not seeing volunteers meeting with the hopes and missions to engage city support services to better reach and build their community under the stronghold of city oversight. Now, the changes in the most current bylaws of the Southwest Common Council reflect the decisions to back out the politics of city government, but to keep the participation of city service providers in the Southwest Common Council model as active participants without voting rights. Hence, in the 4 quadrants of the city, there is an active quad team model, which is inclusive of all the quads neighborhood associations with participation as listed in the proposal. The quad teams were established to bring all the quads neighborhood associations in a single understanding override of the quad administrator. However, in the Southwest Quad, the arrival of the quad team birthed conflict due to the existing Southwest Common Council, meaning the Southwest Common Council, and the quad team being run under the direction of a community volunteer and not the city administrator. This issue exists only in the Southwest, where years ago the residents had great vision and established the Southwest Common Council. Therefore, my question is, why is there the need to focus energy to this degree? I have my professional opinions, but I would like to know why this will resolve what entities gains to benefit and what cost to that's not beneficial. And that was Lynette Robinson. But I thought that was excellent how
Yeah.
she broke it down.
Oh, yeah.
And this was just in our conversation, and all of a sudden she texts me this, and it's like a holy
Ask
be on
her
a
if
camera,
she'd be-
holy shit moment. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ask her if she'd be willing to send that, so that it could be put in the notes that go out.
I'll send it right now to you.
Yeah.
Because this is good. So
Yeah.
who should I send it to?
To me.
Okay, as a,
Well, you can send it to me too, but
Yeah.
she's
well,
the
no,
one
I'm
who's
just trying
gonna
to, okay. no.
transcribe it into the
And
minutes.
it's nothing in stone there. I think we have some work to do to make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
we get our. I'm talking to our council rep.
Because this is,
And what does it? It doesn't say anything about business associations or block clubs either. It doesn't
Mhm.
address all the groups, just neighborhood associations.
I don't know, I just sent it to you.
Okay.
And then you can,
I'll put it in I'll just copy and paste it into the
Yes.
minutes so that hopefully people, and I might even put it in our regular messages that go out, saying cities push to regulate neighborhood associations causes concern, and then put it in
There you go.
so that people can read it.
And another thing, John, with Peace Village being in our community, the city did bend a lot of rules about zoning to now have a permanent tent encampment on Broad Street. When they put up a fence really fast, and it's on a brown field, but they're getting by it because they're not digging on the soil and they've covered it. But there is room to work with the city on your tiny home projects that we can have people living in tents. There's 7 of them there today, right now, sleeping in their tents. They go to Open Door Mission for showers. They're not creating any problems in the community, and they're being serviced by the community. So many people have gotten housing since they've opened, but they get new ones. And there's 3 of them that work day jobs that don't have, and they're working towards an apartment that are there right now. So, and City Roots Land Trust, which I'm sure you know, Joe Diafori, they hold the land lease there through the city. So there can be negotiations with the city and other groups in forming LLC to create reach.
you know, I was thinking when you kept saying that because some of the parcels are small within the city, and they're really not large enough to build a house, but if you want to put a tiny home there, what's going to happen is you're going to infringe on some neighborhood groups who are going to want to put gardens there, because it's the...
Put them around the house.
Well, but the vacant gardens, you know...
With the community village of tiny homes, gardening is a central feature.
Well, no, what I'm saying is these smaller parcels are conducive to neighborhood groups making gardens there for the entire neighbors around there instead of putting a tiny house. That's all.
It has to be a discussion, and that's why talking with you a year ago, to get the input and the sense of what the neighborhood wants. So to infringe and impose.
I
is
love
not-
the idea.
It's right in so many areas. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of infill needed.
So what's the square footage of a tiny home?
I think the figure is 300 feet, square feet.
300.
But again, check, there's a
No,
video
it's
clip,
just-
it's mentioned in the video clip, and I'm just not good at visualizing what that is. And maybe
That's
speak-
3 by
My first
10.
apartment was 400 square feet.
I know, but that's when you were young and just had clothes.
But I'm almost ready to go back.
But it is
Yes.
a low
Everything is just minimal.
That's true.
I hear you.
This is for you.
Okay, and did you have anything, Eleanor, for the round table, or have you covered it all?
Yeah. Well, Youth Build is graduating. On Tuesday, they'll be graduating their last cohort, and the next cohort starts on Monday. And what we're trying to do with the NSC office is to look at code violations and bring it here. We're trying to bring a project like that here because that might have multiple interests for people, is to learn what are the code violations, teach the students how to do code violations, even having the code violations people come in and talk to them about permits and code violations, all this basic stuff to be a property manager, because that's more realistic than getting them straight into a big construction company.
Everything.
Right. The end.
Maybe we could work together on 6 Madison Street. Like,
Yes.
Now, for the
Definitely can.
the letter to the about the
Right.
U of R there, we're going to have to.
Is there someone that would want to draft a letter and send it to me?
Oh, just
Yeah, right. Well, no, it was Doucette.
What?
Who
What?
started it.
She
You
started
started it.
No, I would use very coarse language. Say them on their side.
So it's a very short letter.
I was about to say, yeah, mine's gonna be without punctuations and everything. So.
You know, that's right, because it's ridiculous.
I'll
John
try
will
to
do
get
it.
something together.
Sure.
If not, Marion's got a lot of opinions about that too. So
I wrote a very
Okay.
nice letter to Mark Fisher, and that's how I got that meeting with him and his second in command. I thought I was.
Okay.
okay, well I think we've covered plenty. I want to thank everybody for wonderful participation today.
Thank you for
Have a
being
good.
flexible.
And it's at 39 King
Oh.
Street.
This worked out well.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself to members